less people to throw things at me with the Dodger jersey on.
So this hour is going to be actually kind of unscripted. I didn't send you any questions. I didn't send any, none of that. So 100% of this conversation is sports and entertainment. And this is a participatory environment. So as you guys have questions, let's ask. Jack, if someone's monitoring the questions online, please, ask those as well.
Yeah, that'd be great.
So we were at the Keller Williams Sports Entertainment reception at Family Reunion in Orlando, having a few beverages in the taco bar or whatever it was there, which is good.
It's really good.
And so I want to lead with this question. I was like, how, tell us where all this sports and entertainment began. Like, how did we end up with our first deal? And how does that happen? Because that doesn't just happen, right? So if you would just walk us through that first experience. And I think we were at a Laker game, Clipper game, a basketball game, right?
Yes. So when we met Clint, so we've got tickets to the Lakers, the Clippers, the Kings, the Dodgers. We love sports. Our CPA said you need to write off about 8-9 years ago. So we were like, you mean we can get tickets to sporting events and get right off? That's too good to be true. So we started getting these, and I think the story I was talking to Perry about, as we entertain clients, it's a great way for us to interact with clients, be able to engage and have a good time. We're often bringing our children so they've sort of grown up from a couple weeks old to 3, 5, and 7, just sort of coming with us to games. But we were at a Clipper playoff game at least 6 years ago, and just started talking to the person behind us, gentleman named Clint Carlton, who was working with a nonprofit. Laura and I have a big heart for nonprofits, and he was helping run the Dream Center Los Angeles, which was a nonprofit. And the other aspect of what he was doing at that point was running the Justin Turner Foundation. Justin and his wife Courtney have a big heart for giving back in the community, and just sort of said, listen, let's stay in touch. If there's ever anything that can happen, let's stay connected. So we kept in touch occasionally, and would see each other on occasion. They have a daughter who's about the age of one of our daughters. And then the people who heard the story earlier at the last session, we were at a Dodger game in 3 years, just over 3 years ago, September of 2018. And Justin Turner, in like the 4th or 5th inning, we've got seats sort of in the first row down the first baseline, hit a foul ball, and it was a screamer, and Laura was sitting here
Closest to home plate.
Charlotte, Alexandra, because I like to be on the end, so when foul balls come I can adjust. And I've gotten teased for that for many years, that I'm somewhat aggressive in trying to get foul balls, which is silly because I didn't get my first foul ball until I was like 34, into lots and lots of games, and our girls got their first ball at like 3 weeks old. So it's sort of not fair, but so the screaming foul ball is coming. Laura, in her maternal instinct, is like, I'm going to protect my 2 and 4-year-old,
right,
and turns.
I turn and those moments, it's so fast, but yet it's so slow. And I jumped on top of them and it hit me right here. And as I said in our earlier session, I looked at everyone, made sure nobody was bleeding, and I took off and nobody could catch up with me. Some woman did stop me and was like, I'm a doctor. And I was like, are you a neonatal specialist? And she said, no. I'm like, you cannot help me. And I kept going. So the EMTs found me at the top of the stairs and whatnot. I ended up, going to the hospital. God bless it. Like, miracle, Elizabeth is fine. At least we think she is. She came full term. She came out on her due date, and she's 3.5 now and hysterical. So fun. Yet, this relationship, it truly is. You never know who you're talking to in those relationships. This relationship then called Jason and said, hey, I really want you to come to this event that Courtney and Justin are doing. It's for veterans. I know you guys have a heart for that. It is part of their nonprofit. Would you guys be willing to come? Now, mind you, I gave birth like a day before. And so I'm like, and Jason comes to me and he's like, so honey, I think this is 10 days after birth. So we're going to go to this event. And what Justin and Courtney don't know is that our eldest had brought home lice from preschool. So I have a lot of hair, as does she. And so 3 out of 5 of us in the family have lice. And if you know what Justin Turner has, he's a very big beard. So anyway, I in these photos, I have my hair slicked back because all I could think of is if I meet this guy and I give him lice, that would be really good. So anyway, we go to this event.
So Elizabeth was born December 3rd. I think the event was like December 14th, 15th.
Yeah.
And we go and meet Justin and Courtney. They've raised $150,000, maybe $250,000
For veteran care.
for veteran care in this one event. And we get to meet them afterwards, and we tell Charlotte, okay, you can't tell, we're not going to lead with that he hit mommy with a foul ball. And so this little
She was
4-year-old,
at the time.
as we're talking, and again, we've been to lots of games, and she knows who these people are, looks at him and said, did you know that you hit mommy with a foul ball? And
When the baby was in her
when
belly.
the baby was in her belly. And
He looks at me and like these big eyes, and I
just
was
met these people, and
like, well, I'm holding her. She is fine. She came full term. And all I could think of was like, and I said, and her name's Elizabeth, but we didn't like Justine. Sorry. And that's all I could think of. But he was so gracious in that moment. He actually signed a ball that said, I'm sorry for my bad aim, which was very sweet of him. But it really created that opportunity of relationships. So here it is, a stranger we meet and have just a connection through sports, of the love of sports, brought us then into a relationship that we had no idea that they had, that then is a nonprofit world, which, as you all know, off of our last conversation, we now have a nonprofit. And that really opened up a bunch of relationships that fast forward to where we are today. I will say, before we even did this, before this relationship even happened, one of Jason's goals has to be a realtor of select for the Dodgers. And unbeknownst to me, he'd been writing notes to people who got drafted to the Dodgers. And I was like, hey, FYI, congratulations. And just in case you need help, I didn't even know that this was part of his goals. And then he shared it with me, and then we became strategic about it to a degree. Now, this relationship, we didn't even know would bring that. So,
but you sort of have goals and
Hey there.
goals, and you put it out there, and here's
I'm just getting ready for this appointment in a little bit.
let's mute.
We'll mute you.
and really, we've learned to set purposeful goals and have these goals that are, here's what you want, and sort of that self-fulfilling prophecy, and think and grow rich, Napoleon Hill, what we think, and things can come to be. And so wanting to be, again, I have a background in sports. Laura won a national championship as a soccer player at North Carolina. I coached tennis on the professional tour for a number of years and was there in the Grand Slam boxes as people were winning Wimbledon. And so it was a heart. I'd help people on the WTA with their housing and short-term housing, and when they'd come to town and do training. And so there was a natural, but also we're in a town in La Cañada where lots of Dodger players over the years. And it was like, why not us? We can do it just as well. Why someone else? And so that relationship with Justin led to him referring us to 2 or 3 other players that year. And last year, I think we helped 8 of the Dodgers last year. We helped LA Rams players. We helped, thanks to another person in Keller Williams Sports and Entertainment, we just helped an LAFC player close on a place. And again, oftentimes it starts as leases. You're just sort of building relationships. There was a hotel last year in downtown LA where a lot of the Dodgers wanted to be because it was sort of the Mecca, and that part of downtown LA became a little bit rougher in COVID. And so then we had to help one of those players move to the beach. We had another person who was like, I just need to get out of here. So we helped them move to another apartment. And again, we've got a storage unit with a bunch of furniture. So we furnished their new place and just sort of delivered it. We brought all the furniture, we set it up, and then they lived there for the last 3 months of the year. And then they just closed on a home 3 months ago.
So it was, in this particular client, it was 2 years of getting them in leases Now this year they purchased something that is $1 million+ home. And
We have a client who's literally at their house now taking care of their dogs while they're here in Minnesota to play the Twins tonight. And our client who helped me move all the furniture and help these clients move in and out now is totally comfortable, and he's house sitting and dog sitting for them. And the text from her today was, well, I hope he'll do this all season. And it's just sort of, you're building those relationships of caring for people. And then again, we were just showing, it's just that referral. You come with value. It's, as we said earlier, we helped 138 families last year, and or 132 families, 138 million. It's not one more transaction doesn't make it. It's building that relationship and caring for people and building that network of people across the world. And Keller Williams Sports and Entertainment is building that and creating that. And again, we've worked with a number of celebrities in LA who are actors. We had a famous sort of ABC weatherman in Southern California who'd been through lots of realtors over the years and gave us the opportunity and helped him sell his place. So it's just sort of building that relationship and realizing that they're just normal people. They're just humans, just like us. Now, some of them want to be treated differently, and you've got to read them. And some of them they've got different expectations, and that's okay. You've got to, part of the skill in this business is reading people and mirroring and matching. Laura's amazing at that, Ed. Okay, people are going to respond differently, and sometimes it's going to be the wives who handles it all. Sometimes it's going to be the husband who handles it all, and just sort of being able to understand who they are and what their needs are and how we can mirror and match and listen. There are lots of people who want this, and I think part of what allowed me to get into the place of coaching tennis at a high level, working with people who are winning Wimbledon, was I wasn't really pursuing that. I got into a position where I was doing these outings at the Australian Open for American Express, and they saw how I was doing that. And then the dad said, hey, can you warm up Marion for her next couple matches? And then after she did well at the Australian Open, okay, can you travel with us to the Grand Slams for this year? And then one thing led to another, and then another relationship and another relationship. It's building those relationships. And a lot of these people have so many people who are trying to get their claws into them. And if you just come with value and are there to help, then it sort of builds that relationship and realizes it can work. Now, fail forward. Some of these people really don't want a relationship with you, and they want to keep that separation. I've failed in, again, I'm relationship driven, and want to be, I'm a cheerleader by heart, and that's what I want to do. And so after some of these players win the World Series, I'm texting and I got the feedback is that was a little much. We didn't really want that. We wanted that separation from personal and professional, and you sort of invaded that space a little much. And that's being totally transparent on learning and being the best I can be, because these people, some of them still want their space and they don't want that personal relationship. They want the business to be the business and the personal to be the personal, and don't break that. So you've got to understand that. And I've had to fail in that and move forward and apologize and get better. So not everyone wants to be treated the same. Not everyone is wired the same. And as people get to a higher level and are making more, they've got to be that much more protective of their circle. That circle becomes that much smaller, and sort of learning how to do that. And
well, I think that brings up a really good topic of, as you have sometimes a first-time buyer that we've worked with, you guys remember, or that the parents sometimes come, and all of a sudden there's like, you didn't know that you were presenting to 10 other people to make this one decision. When working with athletes or entertainment or anyone in this type of industry, there's their circle that you probably will communicate more with than them themselves. And that's a-okay. And it depends on which kind of level they are, because in some cases it could be parents, and sometimes it's the gatekeeper and their manager or their agent or that assistant. And sometimes it's the spouse or significant other. And it kind of just depends. As they move up in that hierarchy, you may be pushed into more of the perimeter dialogue. And that's still not bad, because my whole thing is, sometimes those gatekeepers are more gifted in the long-term relationship hub work than the true athlete themselves. And so one of the strengths I think that we've done in this is that it's been kind of a grassroots approach. It's been authentic. We've still been our genuine selves. And it's checking in with them and being as helpful as we can be. So in other words, when this one particular player's wife, I just was like, how's everything going? What's going on? What do you need? When are you coming back here? When are you out from spring training? She's like, oh my goodness, I'm so glad you reached out. I was going to reach out to you because I don't have a dog sitter. Who should I get for house cleaner? What do you suggest about restaurants? So you become kind of this coordinator and this hub, which is, Gary always says Angie's List was created because we failed to communicate with our clients and be the hub. So it's a great opportunity in this little network to really shine and be that, which then can, of course, fall over into other parts of your database. So our whole approach was, how can we really create that experience for them? So for that time that they're living in our city, they don't have to worry. If they have kids, they know the best pediatrician. If they know the best schools, they have the best nanny referrals or babysitter referrals. Or let's be honest, dogs and cats are their children. So how can we make sure they're okay? So just really creating that. And a lot of times you're doing a lot of work for them, like trying to finally find a short-term housing furnished lease that isn't really that fits in their budget. And you might not be successful in it, but they value that you've worked on it. So for instance, we worked really hard for one of the coaches recently and gave them all these things. They were going to sign the lease. Last minute, they found a back house somewhere else where they rather do. And I was like, oh man, bummer. But you know what was so great is then I've texted them and just said, you guys are now here. How did moving go? Do you like it? What do you need? What relationships can I make this experience better for your family? How can I help you? They sent some quick texts back. So following them, mirroring, matching in their form of communication. If they're long-winded, you be long-winded. If they're short-winded, bullet point, you match it. Then also asking the questions. And if you can't get to them to ask the questions, like for one of our players, we always like to make their property as welcoming as possible. So we'll stash it with some food that they like. So then going to the gatekeeper, whoever it may be, or the family member and being like, what's their favorite snack food? What's their favorite drink? Is there a sport drink or a sponsorship? Sometimes it's checking out on their Instagram site. Like, do they drink smart water or is it, Avion? So I don't offend them with whatever their brand is. So just doing that and having runners on our team to put that all together. Funny enough, as you hear, like we furnished some of these places, the furniture is not really nice furniture. Like it's the stage furniture that I put last in a home because I don't love it. But yet they're so grateful that they don't have to do anything and have to figure it out. And so, or we'll help them rent furniture for that time frame. So it's really creating that full package experience and then tidying it up for them when they leave. Because that's the departure is a whole nother element.
So I wrote down a couple of times in the first session, it's all about the relationship. And a couple of key points here. If you want to really dive into this space, to your point, I think my first 6 sports folks were all short-term leases.
Yep.
And I didn't get paid a dime on any of them.
Yep.
Right. And you end up doing more work than normal because they need the help and you want to help them. So there's one point like this. It sounds like this is kind of luxurious, and in the beginning, it's the furthest thing from that.
It's not.
Right.
You can buy Starbucks with it.
Yeah. And then secondly, it'd be don't underestimate the value in the agent and the other people that are around them, because that relationship is can be far more powerful in the end. I have great relationships with some of these agents, and you never end up talking to the players at all, or very little, and that's just as good.
I agree. And getting a referral into an agent can be, I mean, it's like a gold mine. I mean, that's the gatekeeper of it all. And it's just checking in and saying, how can I help? Is there something that's missing right now in your portfolio that would be helpful to you and your clientele? What does that look like? And I think the other piece that with having the sports and entertainment division is leveraging that. So for instance, one of the dialogues we're having with one right now is, I said, remember, we can do anything anywhere for you. You are not alone. And also articulating that to the current sports clients and their people. So when, two of the trades just happened to two players we love, we reached out, first of all, to, the family and the spouse and said, are you okay? We're thinking of you. We know this can be tough. Then it was, a week later or a few days later, not usually a week because it happens so quickly. What do you need? Do you need help finding housing there? How can we be of help? Then that key component is the referral source, because you need to make sure that you're referring it to someone who's going to do that hard legwork, that's going to make the calls that are like, 50 calls and have one success of finding something in their budget that will be furnished that they will like. Or you've got to get creative and try to find things. And you may find something, especially if it's a lease, that, as you said, you don't even get paid, but you've taken care of someone and you've made them feel great. And we all know how you make someone feel is what's where the repeat business will be.
Two things. You say you reach out, but how do you reach out? These people don't just make their phone number public.
No.
And so how do you reach? How do you get through to them initially?
So our initial opportunity was through our nonprofit. So because we have our nonprofit is a similar mission base, in this case, as Justin Turner's mission base. So we met a very key person who became the domino that introduced us to that. Then because we were involved in that. So for us, really the dominoes began to fall because of our nonprofit and our mission in our business.
Getting behind them and what's important to them and finding out, okay, Justin Turner's Foundation has this mission and this purpose in LA. So
How could we
let's make a
support it?
donation of $15,000 to the Justin Turner Foundation. Then let's support their golf tournament, be one of the sponsors there. You get invited, they begin to establish that trust. Then they introduce us. And Clayton Kershaw had a ping pong for charity tournament. And so this
And
person
Justin asked us to be a part of that.
So they introduced us to Clayton and said, would you want to be a sponsor for the Clayton Kershaw ping pong for a purpose? So yes, we love ping pong. Playing that ping pong tournament with AJ Pollock builds that relationship with AJ, and we're partners. And then playing against, what's the Bachelorette? One of those bachelorettes.
Harrison.
Anyway, so we do this. We do the ping pong tournament. We donate. Then in November, Kershaw's Challenge does another event in Texas, and they invite us, would you want to come out and be a sponsor of this event in Dallas? Fast forward a year, Clayton's inviting us into his home for a private dinner with about 50 friends last fall, just sort of thanking us for the support and being a friend and building that relationship. We've shown support to them. Most of the interaction is with the people on Kershaw's Challenge who are running Kershaw's Challenge, yet we get invited into these opportunities because you're coming with value. You're putting your money where your mouth is. We align with them and what their vision is, what their purpose is, what their mission is, and it's who we want to be. It's who we want to be in support of what they're doing. They have a much bigger opportunity to have that ripple effect than we do because of the position, and getting in like-minded relationships with people who have that vision that's much more than baseball for them was powerful. Or then whatever the field that you're working in, that's how we've built relationships with people and come with value. And again, for those that were here earlier, we've got a nonprofit and we put money in every paycheck. 10% of every paycheck goes to our nonprofit. And when people have a need, if it's something that we're like-minded, yes, we'll write a check because that's who we are and we want to be able to support that. And then you build those relationships and don't want to be demanding, okay, we need anything back from them. It's just sort of coming to them with value, and then they see that. And so again, no, we can't look in a phone book and say, okay, how do I contact Matthew Stafford of the new quarterback of the Rams or whoever it is? And that relationship is built by the agent, the friend, the other athlete. And the wonderful thing about sports and entertainment, KW Sports and Entertainment, is they're starting to work with college athletes and getting in the NIL, sort of that name, image, likeness, and partnering with some of those where you're getting in relationship with people before they become big time. You're sponsoring them, and Keller Williams Sports and Entertainment is giving that opportunity to partner with some of these people in your favorite university or your favorite neighbor, whatever it is, whatever the school is. And you start early. It doesn't happen where you get that relationship with the bigwig right at the beginning. You start when they're just sort of making it and scraping by, and then they have success and you've showed them value. And again, lots of times you're not getting paid for something, and that's okay. You're building a relationship.
So one thing I've noticed as you've shared some of these stories about some of these players and coaches is that you're not really dropping names very much. And do you ever find yourself dropping names when you're talking to somebody new that, hey, we worked with Matthew Stafford, or we did this or did that? Or are you keeping that confidential?
So I think the names that I've shared, Justin and Clayton, they've posted things about us on their social media. We haven't posted things about being with them. They've posted things about us, and then that gives some freedom. We're not going around, and that's one of the conversations we've had with Jordan, and he sort of encourages, okay, can you get testimonials? And some people are better at that than us at asking these athletes or celebrities to do that. We have not really gone after that and tried to do that. Again, Bruce Gratterall, he posted after we closed on his home recently about us thanking our team for it. We let them sort of share. And then at that point, we feel like, okay, we can mention their names. We're not going around talking all about it, but when they talk about us, then that gives a little bit more freedom, and we'll share their story or things of that nature, but let them lead that rather than us lead it. And
Well, and I think in the meet and greet social that we had at Family Reunion for KW S&E, one of the big topics that Jordan was talking about was discretion, and how a lot of these people want to have that privacy. They don't want their name thrown around there. So it is a fine line to utilize. Just though, to give you an example though, when referred to this agent recently, in that conversation that was live, where we were on the phone together, I did say then, would you like any references of people we've worked with? And would that be helpful for you? And he said, well, actually, so-and-so told me that you've done this, this, and this. And I said, yes. And we've also worked with da, 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 da. So I gave them another, and he goes, oh, great. Because then it was, okay. And then it fast tracked our dialogue. So then he said, this is what I'm looking for this, this, and this player. And then I mentioned something and mentioned about our vast coverage with, of course, our network that we have in KW in this division. And he's like, great. I also need San Diego, and then provided more areas. And I said, great. What are those parameters?
So just a couple of housekeeping items. For those of you, just by show of hands, how many are members of KWSC? Just so we get, okay, so for those who aren't, you mentioned Jordan. Jordan Stewart is the director of KWSC. So that's who she's referring to. And when you join the program, we have trainings on a regular basis that dive into, kind of to their point, what's appropriate and not appropriate. And, discretion is basically the first rule. It's like, we don't talk about Bruno. We don't talk about our athletes without permission. So.
Along those lines, are there times where even the purchase agreement is written in a different name?
So there can be blind trusts and things of that. There are a lot of blind trusts and can be. The hardest thing is for players that or entertainment folk that have not been yet at a high level or didn't know or weren't educated to create a blind trust. That's really hard because once you're in a contract position, it's not like you can pull that out, especially in California. There's just a lot of rules and things you've got to do to get that approved. And also for financing terms, it can be really challenging. So just knowing and talking to their people to say, okay, are you purchasing this in the trust? Is it a blind trust? Do I have your permission to speak directly with your lender or incorporate text communication or email where we can discuss what's the best way for you to purchase this? A lot of times it's still in their name, which a lot of them don't want, and but they don't know. So what another great opportunity to tell people, just like in California, after one of our players just purchased something, I said to their spouse, okay, guys, now that you've purchased, I really need you to make a living trust. And we need to now then put this into the living trust. So do you need a referral? What can I do to help you to get this ball moving forward? So it's being that advocate for their longevity.
And you can spend years building something to try to create that value and show that value. And it just takes one little miscue to blow it all up.
Well, that's in any part of your business,
For sure. So
right? One bad review can really sideswipe you.
So you do come from this LA area where there are plenty of celebrities and entertainment and movie stars and whatever else. Do you bridge this over to that type of client too? When you talk about entertainment, or is it just the sports?
So I think that's a great question because it really hones into where's your passion and what is your passion lie? Obviously, our background in us separately is athletic career. I wish I was a theater person. I love going to the theater. I love going to the Hollywood Bowl. Yet, you give me a guitar and it's not going to be pretty up here. So go where your passion is. Follow your passion because your authentic, genuine self will show one way or another. And that's where you're going to thrive. So me pretending that I can really make it in that arena may not be the right thing. With that being said, there are definitely musicians which we help. We've had listings which many celebrities look at and see.
TMZ has listed a couple places that we've had where it sort of goes, and so there are things that.
Yeah, and I actually think that arena we can approach more. We have been more hyper focused on the sports side, and as that now has its fundamental systems and standards, now I feel like we can approach and look at the entertainment side more openly. But we live in a suburb of LA. We have 3 kids, 7, 5, and 3. When I moved back from South America, I remember distinctly going into a restaurant and bar, imagine this is a long time ago. And somebody saying to me, oh, well, I'm in the entertainment. I'm in the business. And I was like, what business is he talking about? Like, I had no clue. So I was like, I go, that's great. What business are we talking about? And he's like, entertainment. Looked at me like I was an idiot. And looking back at it, I was like, that was kind of an idiot question. Yet at the same time, I had no idea. So of course I was going to ask. So, have we bridged the gap? No, we haven't. There's definitely a lot of opportunity. Yet people are not walking down the street like this. It's a strategy, and it's the building of relationships that gets you one step closer at a time. We use the nonprofit as our avenue.
So let's go to Monique online has a question, and then we'll go to Joe and then Denise.
Hi, Monique.
I'm sorry, I actually did not have a question. I raised my hand for something earlier. I apologize.
Well, hi, Monique.
How are you?
Join us. All right, Joe.
So, Jason, you said that there's a fine line to kind of follow up, maybe with people who don't want to be bugged, so to speak. How do you follow up with them if it becomes, you get a little negative feedback?
Good
Or do you
question.
just drop it?
You listen. Again, as I said, my fail forward, I had to apologize to this person who had referred us to someone and said they just didn't they just didn't feel good about how you were texting encouragement during they got off the field and you were saying congratulations. They didn't want that. So then that was an apology. And the question was, okay, do I apologize to the person who I bothered that made you look bad? And the answer was no, that would make it worse. So you just have to ask the question. You have to be willing to learn and say, okay, I didn't do that as well. I didn't read that as well. I don't know if there's an exact answer. Everyone's a little different. And
Well, so I've done that too. How, is there something we can do in advance? Like I'm thinking about a couple of my situations, not like that where I've gotten negative feedback, but I mean, to Joe's point, like how do you know what's appropriate or not? You know, I mean, obviously you read the relationship and whatnot. Like you said, some are really chatty and some there's no communication whatsoever. I think you end up erring on this whatever that term is, be on the conservative side where you don't go there if you're questioning it in your mind, right?
Yeah. And I think you can also, just like we ask all of our clients, what's your best form of communication? How do you prefer to be communicated with? Who's to say you can't ask that person that? So, and asking their herd or their significant other or whoever you can tell is the domino effect person, and saying, how do you like to be communicated with? What's your preferred method? And then saying, hey, do I have permission to check in with you just time and again? Make sure you're okay. Is there any, just so I know you're taken care of. Worst case scenario, they say, no, I'm going to be okay. But typically when you ask someone that, they're going to say, yeah, no problem. Now they don't want to hear from you at 11 o'clock at night saying, oh my goodness, the new Star Wars movie's out. I'm so excited like that. But yet I have some of wives that follow me on my Instagram account and comment all the time. And I can't believe it. I get excited, kind of like it's the Peloton instructor that comments. I got really excited over that the other day. But, you know, so I think you just ask that question. You be humble and just say, hey, what, you know, is that all right? Or what's your communication style? And asking the team. There's one player who the parent communicates directly with Jason all the time. Can you do this? What do you think about this? Can you help that? And then this year it was more.
you get Doritos.
Yeah. Yeah. They love Doritos. Or I need 2 gaming TVs. Where can we get that? I'm like, I don't even know what games you would play on
I had a parent FaceTime me like all the time. It felt like,
Yeah.
like I was grilling for my family niece face. So
But, you know, imagine that their baby, because their babies are halfway across the country or the world. And they're like, I just want to know they're okay. Wouldn't we want somebody to care for them like our kids? I would want that, especially in a society where these people have no privacy. I mean, it was really interesting. We were in a conversation with a very big player now. And we were at an event and we were talking to them. And I just said to him, very introvert, I said, how do you guys like relax? How do you sign off in today's society where people are being paid to follow you? People are being paid to find you and take photos of you. Like social media, everything's on anywhere. What do you do? And he said, you know, I was talking to Chase Utley about this because Chase Utley used to go into bars wherever they were traveling to, the Dodgers, and he'd wear a hat and he could just sit and have a beer and people would never know who it is. But that was pre-social media. He said, now really, I have to go to a certain town when in the off season, and that's the only time that I can really just relax. Otherwise, I do a lot of Uber Eats and chill and do a lot of video games, and people come to me. And I just thought, wow, this kid's, I think he was what, 21 at the time, 24? 21, huge player on the rise and so amazingly kind and down to earth. And yet he like can't walk down the street. And I'm like, is that really fun? I mean, it doesn't sound fun to me. And yet, you know, this is his lifelong dream. And I asked him, what was the one thing that you would tell a child who looks up to you? And he said, I would practice harder and longer than everyone else in my field. I'd go to bed, I'd study hard, and I'd eat well. And when everyone else tells you you're a dork and that you're not cool, I would look back at what I really want to do and keep my eye on the prize. Total Kobe moment, but it wasn't Kobe, but total, same. So it's fascinating to see kind of what they're in.
Laura's really good at listening to people. So at this first conversation with this person, it was an event where there was poker and there was all these things. And so I was playing poker with a bunch of the players, and Laura was still sitting over there. And one of his teammates comes up and said, he has never talked with anyone for more than 5 minutes, and he's been talking to your wife for 45 minutes. What in the world does your wife do? And
He likes North Carolina.
yes, he likes North Carolina, so they connected on that. And again, they're real people, and you just have conversations and you ask the questions, and so that led to something. And then we offered during the season, they had a day off to go to the beach house. So the girlfriend came up and got our keys to our beach house. And again, you try to come with value, give them what they.
And that whole dialogue started, sir, because you might ask, because he was like this, and I just turned to him and I said, excuse me, I said, I don't mean to bother you. I said, I just want to tell you that you are so influential to so many young people, and our daughter just adores you. And she's 5 years old, and you are the name that she says all the time. My mom thought you were in her classroom, in her school classroom, and one of her friends, because she considers you a friend. So thank you so much for what you bring to the youth. And that's all I said. And and then it opened from there. But my goal was not to have a long dialogue. It was just to say the truth and to just say thank you.
But you do have a talent at getting at something really deep with people that quickly.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Sometimes I
that's
feel
what-
like it doesn't
that's
work.
why I asked.
It doesn't.
Denise, you had a question.
Yeah, my question was about, do you have any ways to handle the liability of working with so-called the gatekeeper? You're signing a purchase agreement for somebody else, or they're working with somebody else. I know I've done some things before, like you said, with the parent involved, and then I've written on the buyer agreement that I have permission to talk to so-and-so on their behalf to CYA
Mhm.
for
Yep,
myself.
yep.
Do you have systems in place to do that? Or I know it's a different state, so, but.
The biggest question is, people want the do not disclose type of dialogue. Yeah, the NDA on pretty much anything. We have not had that trouble yet. And so this is a great question, because it makes my brain think, are we not doing enough to cover everything?
Jordan just had a post this week where there was a exchange about NDAs and looking at examples. And I think one of the keys is learning from other people who are doing it. We haven't done anything in that yet. We've not needed to. Yet there are people who are further along who are doing this and doing it. So it's not something that we have expertise, but I think Jordan and probably some other people on this call probably have better expertise, or yeah.
So I think you're on the right path as I hear you, what you're saying. And I document everything, every phone call with that agent or the manager or the parent, then you follow up in a text and email. I think that's really critical.
My other question was, in Minnesota anyways, there's not that many rentals or leases on the MLS. So finding those, so when you get the opportunity, because I feel like it's going to come up quickly and you have to act quickly, so I want to be prepared in advance. How do I find some of these listings that I've been on?
So if I can jump in on that, I think that's so great. And this is such a great touch point with your own database. So this year we were prep ahead. So we talked to a bunch of our database ahead of time and just said, listen, this is the season. Also looking at, I can say in California, there's a lot of conversation with baby boomers wanting to keep property in California because they don't want to yet get out of the state, but yet they don't really want to be there. They want to be there, for 5 months and, 30 days and live elsewhere. for tax purposes. So, so talking to some of our clients that are in that age bracket and just said, hey, have you ever thought of doing a seasonal lease? And would you ever consider this as a short term? So there's certain brackets of tiers of clientele homes that we've talked to about that. So for instance, I can just say this, one being my own dad. He's a beautiful property that would be great for a higher end. He really wants to start putting a lot of his wealth outside of California. So I said, hey, would you ever consider, Dad, what if you just lived in Florida for 6 months? Could these be around a season that we assist with? So it's planting that seed ahead of time, talking to them, and what a great way of getting in front of your database, doing those phone calls and showing them something else that you're providing. So that actually has been extremely helpful because this own year, how many of them was it 5 or 6 of our own property lease at 5, I think, or 4 of our own properties that are our own clients that leased in the seasonality lease. So it made it a little bit easier in that capacity. The other stale listings, expireds, who in the like there's some agents in our area that do a lot of leases that just are kind of like lease kings and queens. So saying to them, I've got these special people that I just love. Can you keep me in mind if you have anything that's
And ultimately, it's about serving them. And if that means you're going on Airbnb or VRBO or any of those others just to find them, that's what you're going to do. You're just going to go to help them and find them the right place. You do whatever you can to build that relationship, whether you get paid on it or not, because it's about building the relationship with the agents, the players, the actors, the whoever it may be, just to create that. And it can't be, in reality, you may make $500, $1,000. That's not going to, again, the little gift basket that we give them upon moving in is probably worth more than that. Giving them the millionaire real estate agent. We've given out millionaire real estate agent to a lot of these people.
Investor, you mean?
investor one? Yeah.
Millionaire real estate investor, MREI, yes. And so last year, one of our players got hurt. And then I saw on his social media post, as he was recovering from surgery, he was reading the MREI book that we'd given him. And I texted and said,
Nice
hey,
book.
a nice book. I see that you're reading. And he said, I was about to call you. I then got him on a Zoom call with another agent from our mastermind who was doing something on 1031 exchanges in Hawaii, and got him on. And then he, within 2 months, was buying a property in Florida, in Orlando, and used the network through Keller Williams Sports and Entertainment and a relationship we actually already had. And they purchased a home there after reading the MREI book that we've given. We've given a lot of those books. Most of them don't take the time to read or don't communicate, or we don't do that. But when he posted that, I was like, I'm going to text you. And then it created that conversation, and it's building that trust. You're coming with value. Again, stocking their refrigerators with food before they move in so that they have some of those goodies, giving them those little things. It's just the little touches to try to add value in ways that.
And then being available for their problem. So for instance, this year, one of the players moved in, and I think it was like 11 at night, Jason gets a text. They were happy as clams, everything's hunky-dory, everyone's warm and fuzzy feelings. And then at 11 at night, he's like, hey man, I have no hot water. And I'm like, oh. And so what a great learning lesson, because I was like, okay, add that to the checklist. Did we check the utilities that everything was good to go for him so that the family didn't have to experience that? And I don't know, Jason solved it. I didn't even get involved. But that just tells you that then being there and, to be that shepherd to help whatever it may be. But I love asking the family and the spouse or whoever it is, what else are your real estate goals? Have you ever thought of building passive income? Have you ever thought of owning additional property?
Owning a property.
How can we be of help with that? What do you need to learn to do something like that?
I had a fail forward last month where we had one of the twins move in, and I coordinated keys and all of that. And the day they moved in, the player was in Florida, and he asked the fail forward was I forgot to ask him the week prior, hey, have we hired movers to help? So that Sunday, my 15-year-old and I literally
Oh, yeah.
helped them move in.
We did that last week too. It was
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah. You know,
If you look
so-
at our social media, there's a photo of me in workout clothes with somebody and my child. And
Yeah.
because of course we didn't have a nanny that day. So, you know, the 3-year-old came and did it too.
Put the
Yeah.
moving truck to work.
Well, yeah, and so I'm in, Megan Prinz is here, you know, so now, you know, moving companies on speed dial and, you know, poor planning on their part doesn't constitute a mercy on our part. And at the same time, bet your butt, my son and I were literally helping him move in because it's about the relationship. And now here this week, that same player donated Carlos Correa and Byron Buxton autographed jerseys for our silent auction next week for our Alzheimer's event. So,
More stuff about Lisa. So you were talking about that you write down like what they wanted, what they're looking for. You find you're typically looking to be in a metro area or not so much, or is there anything such as a typical?
I think it depends on the individual, depends on who's in their life. Do they have a family? Do they have pets? Do they have young kids? Are they, you know, more single? What's the proximity and what's their requirements with their profession? You know, do they have to be at the stadium more or what is that? We've got some people that want to be a little bit more private and a little bit dry, are willing to drive further for maybe gated communities, which we don't have a lot of in Los Angeles. And then like, you know, we've got some that want to be kind of in a more relaxed urban environment. And then we have some that just want to be in the heart of Hollywood or Studio City and Sherman Oaks. And want to be in the mix because they want to be in a high rise.
Or just where are their teammates and knowing where their teammates are
Yeah.
and putting them where their teammates are so that they can feel comfortable. So their significant others can be with the other significant others during game times over and over when they don't want to be at the stadium every night.
So, and I really think, you know, in kind of pre-COVID, really that season of COVID, which really didn't happen, everyone was in downtown LA. And when COVID was going on at its height in Los Angeles, that was actually great because nobody was really in the building. They had great accessibility to downtown LA. The freeways, it was like nobody lived in Los Angeles. With how, you know, they all wanted the freeways to work. It was fabulous. And then as things started opening up, that whole downtown scene, there's just a higher sense of less population, there's less regulation, less safety. It became uncomfortable. So that's when a lot, or just peace of mind needed to be moved out. And so then it's being available to move them. And like you, getting our moving truck, packing our stuff, packing their stuff, getting around. I mean, I can't tell you how many times Jason with the downtown leases, how many times Jason was texted, my car was towed. And he's like, all right, let's figure out where your car is. And these guys have,
And the cars for these people are pretty important to them.
yeah, it's like their child. So that was some of the battles there.
You
But
just sort of.
I think
do
you
what
have to
do
ask.
to help.
It's the same needs and wants analysis.
Do you have limits on how far you'll go for somebody? You know, you
Like
know,
geographically
or
or,
just like to what extent you're gonna help them, you know, with that hot water problem at night. Did you put limits on yourself in order to preserve your time?
So Sunday mornings are times that we don't work, we're at church. So that's the time that we're pretty sacred on. I'm not sure.
I think in this arena, with building this right now, I would say we're mindful of when the communication is. Like there's certain hours in the night that I just would not be communicating. Yet we haven't said no. On the entertainment side, we had a very high profile entertainment person lease out one of our listings. And that person called me and is like, I ran out of laundry detergent. And I said, well, great, okay.
Paying $15,000 a month and calling late, and I ran out of laundry detergent.
And he's like, what do I do? And now I'll tell you, unfortunately, it was like a 40-year-old. So I was like, okay, well, so I said, okay, well, great. First of all, I said, remember that bike? You love biking and you were so excited about it. there's a beach cruiser in that garage. I'm gonna have you just go down 2 blocks, pick up the one that works best for you. Now, remember, you might have some allergies, so maybe go hyperallergenic. And then you're gonna come home and you'll be good to go. Because
Isn't she
I
good?
was like, I am not driving my hiney 45 minutes in traffic to pick up. So personally, I
How was
was
it
like,
received?
no.
Was it received well? Because that's the right answer, right? Like,
Yeah, I
hey,
was,
there's a CVS right down the street.
yeah, now this is before Instacart, FYI.
Right.
So, I
say
would have just done that, but this is,
Right.
remember, before cell phones? No, before Instacart, and all that. So I did say, is your assistant nearby?
Yeah.
I said, is one of your team members nearby? Because goodness, I would surely, and I'm genuinely, I would surely love to help you. Now, granted, it was like late at night, and I was like, no offense, I'm not driving in traffic to go to Vigo. No way, Jose. And so that's how I got it and done, and he was fine with it. Really though, he wasn't even, we were the listing agent. So we weren't even his client, but yet he contacted us. So the good thing is, it was an example, we made him feel good the whole way that he felt comfortable to contact us. I can't listen to his music though anymore because of that lease experience. So obviously I'm a little traumatized.
So we got about 5 minutes, give or take, probably a little less, because we got a game to get to, and we'll give you guys some time to wind down. What have we not covered that we need to? What do you want to make sure these guys hear as they dive into this space? And then what final questions do we have? But yeah, go ahead.
Do you have something?
You can come with value and you're contributing something. Again, that's where that's in all of our businesses. But for us, it's getting involved in the thing, finding out what makes other people tick and finding ways to support that. That's been most fruitful for us.
And I would also say, in this network of KWSE, building into the relationships of the other agents, finding out how can you help them in their cities, or in, saying to them, like, I love that Jordan was posting the other day on the Facebook group, I need like this lease in this community, who has what? Because I was like, that's awesome. That's getting people trained in what's needed, having them go through the activity, and maybe you'd even fulfill that lease, which could be a great starter into something. So saying, like you're saying, Laura, just in case you have any transfers, I have this, and this network. And making that be known, or how can I help you with what you're building there? What do you need? And it might not be a lease. It might not be, maybe it's an investment property. A lot of these people don't know what to do with their wealth. And there's going to come a point where they're not playing this game, or they're not doing that love any longer. So showing them how to create passive income is a great, unique value proposition.
The strategic ways get to know agents and people who are in their sphere, who are connected to a lot of these people. We have not been purposeful on lead generating, on building relationships with agents or attorneys or things of that nature, but people who are killing this in the sports and entertainment world, they're the ones who are hand in hand with those relationships. That's the way to be most successful. For us, it's been a relationship building, referral building. That's more of how our business has been, rather than trying to just cold call. And yet again, as Jason Abrams and other talk, you just call those people and send them handwritten notes. Again, the power of handwritten note. People are going to open that. If you're just sending them junk mail, they're not going to open it. But if you send them a personal note, people are going to read it, and it's more than likely to get opened and may stay there for a day or two. So,
and I think that's more powerful than a direct message through any social media site. I think that those don't get read in this realm, in my opinion. I would also say, lead with your authentic self. Lead with curiosity, ask them questions. And I also think it's good to know that they just want to be treated as human, majority of the time. And
And those that don't, who want to be treated different, that's okay. And
That could be in
listen to
alignment with
them
you.
and respect them for them wanting to live that way. And there's no judgment in that, but understand that that's how they are and that's okay. It's not a personal thing.
So everyone's going to the game tonight, right? Pretty much nodding heads.
Awesome.
So if you have more questions, I know we're gonna be laser focused on the Dodgers, but I'm willing to bet these guys will field a question or
yeah.
two there.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, let's give a round of applause.
Oh, thank you. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you guys. And we'll see you in a couple hours.
Yeah.
Gates open at 5:40.
Thank you, guys. Thanks for this opportunity. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Reach up the Zoom out quick.
Hi, Melissa. Hi, Jason. Hi, Jude.
Here's yours.
Hi, Keith. Hi, Madeline. Hi, Mike.
Great, Joseph.
Maybe 8:30 in the morning is my